So, it's here. It finally arrived. Probably the most awaited episode of The Mandalorian this season, episode 5, The JEDI. So let's break it down. Welcome to the newest episode of SDW.
Super Dario World!
Alright, so I gotta tell you, I gotta be honest. I was excited for this one. I was very much looking forward to it. It had been teased on a previous episode that we might get to see the return of a major Star Wars character from the expanded universe, but whatever, still a major character. I was excited for it. I like my girl Ahsoka. But let's get into it. Before we get into it, let me just give you a quick reminder that any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me at Dario the Show on Instagram and at Super Dario World. Also, live streaming on Twitch and on YouTube at Super Dario World. If you want to see this videos later, because apparently it helps people follow along with what I'm saying, I upload clips and stuff so that you can be like, oh, that's what he's talking about. Now it makes sense. You can find all those videos on YouTube if you cannot join me live. All right, so got that out of the way. Let's begin. Let's get into The Mandalorian. So, first off, as always, this is episode, 13, The JEDI, or season 2, episode 5. And let's begin with the new characters that are introduced here. Now, we begin with a new old character, and that is the one and only Ahsoka Tano. Now, for those of you who don't know, Ahsoka Tano was Anakin Skywalker's, aka Darth Vader's, Padawan learner. So she actually, she's a character that was introduced in Star Wars The Clone Wars. I cannot recommend Star Wars The Clone Wars enough. It is probably the best thing with Star Wars that's been done consecutively. I highly recommend it. You follow her story along. And I won't spoil too many things from it, but as you can see, clearly she's alive after the Clone Wars. So there you go. She's a Jedi Knight, I guess, technically, and a survivor of the Clone Wars, and Anakin Skywalker's former Padawan learner. So there you go. Again, I highly recommend you watch the Clone Wars. It is a great watch. Highly recommend it. Moving on, we have Morgan Elsbeth, who is going to be the big bad in this episode. Honestly, there's really not much to tell here. Basically, big bad. She was a part of the Clone Wars and continued being a big bad. And we have Lang, who's basically a gun for hire. But the fun thing here, and the only reason why I'm actually introducing him here, is because this guy is Kyle Reese. This dude's John Connor's dad. He's that actor. So that's the only reason why I'm mentioning him, because I found that amusing. Anyway, that's it. That's it for the new characters, and let's move on to the summary. So let me just do a quick switch here. Okay, cool. So the episode begins with this kind of like fortress-like city, and I need to stress this. This episode is the closest to what would be an old samurai flick, and now it's got the airs of a Western, because Westerns and samurai films are actually kind of similar. But this one is the one that feels the most like an old school samurai film. So I want to put that out there, and it makes sense because you're introducing a character that duels with a lightsaber. So it made sense that they actually went the samurai route for this one. Okay, so we're introduced to this fortress city in this very crappy planet, and basically this fortress city is under attack. The person that's attacking them is the one and only Ahsoka Tano, who I already mentioned, is the former Padawan learner of one Anakin Skywalker. So it turns out that she's attacking this particular settlement because she wants information from Morgan, who I already told you who she is, basically a baddie. And so she wants information on Morgan's boss, and Morgan is basically like, we're going to kill all the people here if you don't leave us alone. And so Ahsoka Tano's like, you already treated them like shit, so they're going to die anyway. And so she's like, you got 24 hours or you're dead. So that's her negotiating tactic. And honestly, I think it's kind of effective. It's kind of ballsy. I respect it. Yep. And so that leads us to Mando and the child and Baby Yoda, who are traveling through space and going directly to that planet because they know that Ahsoka Tano is there. So they arrive at the planet, And they arrive at this particular city. He actually parks his ship in the outskirts of the city. He tries to get in. He lies his way into the city. He doesn't want to tell anybody for some reason that he's looking for a Jedi or that he's looking for a particular person, Ahsoka Tano. Mainly it's because I'm guessing he doesn't trust people, which is a good thing to do when you're arriving to a militarized city. And as he's trying to meet people and talk to people, he learns that this town is kind of shitty and nobody talks to you. And a couple of soldiers go and pick him up and tell him, like, hey, Magistrate wants to talk to you. So as he's saying to the Magistrate, he notices a bunch of people who are basically being tortured. And so he walks into the Magistrate. And the Magistrate, this is Morgan, by the way. Magistrate Morgan. She basically says, like, hey, you're a Mandalorian. I have an issue with the Jedi, and I want you to kill her. And if you kill her, I'll give you this really cool spear that's made out of Veskar, which I hear the Mandalorians really like. So Mando got really lucky that they immediately sent him in the direction of the person that he was looking for, and they told him where to find him, and they gave him a prize if he found her. So that was very lucky. I guess it could happen, but you know how I am with certain things. But whatever, it's fine. It's fine. So that's pretty much how that conversation went. So Mando goes out, tries to find Ahsoka. Ahsoka kind of ambushes him, and here we learned something very interesting. We learned that the Veskar armor can actually withstand lightsabers, which is something we did not know before. We know it could withstand blasters, but it actually withstands a direct hit from a lightsaber, and not just one, several direct hits from lightsabers. So that's pretty interesting. Apparently, Mando's armor is even more badass than we originally thought. Like, I knew it was already pretty badass. This is next level badass. You guys remember episode 1, The Phantom Menace, where they seal the blast doors? It's the opening sequence where they seal the blast doors on Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon just sticks the lightsaber in there and starts melting the whole thing. Well, apparently this thing can withstand that. So there you go. That's the type of armor this dude's wearing. Anyway, the fight kind of ends in a draw because Mando's like, wait, I'm not trying to kill you. Stop trying to kill me. Like, I'm here to have a conversation. And so Ahsoka immediately is interested by Baby Yoda. So she goes over to the side. They start having what appears to be kind of like a forced conversation. And here's where we learned a whole bunch of interesting stuff about one Baby Yoda. First off, we finally know his name. I do not like it, but I mean, it's not up to me, I guess. And here's the things that we learned from Ahsoka Tano from this particular conversation. This little one here, Baby Yoda's real name is Grogu. All right, I'll say that again. Grogu. All right, there you go. That's his name. So from now on, we're going to refer to him as Grogu if I can, because I'm totally going to fucking forget. So there you go. Grogu, there you go. Anyway, so we also learned that he was actually a Padawan learner in the Jedi Temple, and during the Clone Wars, and then afterwards, after the rise of the Empire, somebody, and this is what they say, somebody took him from the temple, and from that point on, his memory becomes dark. He's kind of alone, he's kind of like missing, and it's not exactly clear what happens to him after he is taken from the Jedi Temple. So, speculation all around who took him, who knows? There were still some clones there who were, no, the clones were not really loyal. Anyway, so there were still other Jedis there that survived, so who knows who took him, but the point is somebody took Grogu from the Jedi Temple, and he was actually being trained in the ways of the Jedi. So there you go. We finally have a little bit of background on him. A little bit. Just a little bit. Anyway, so, and also this kind of proves something that's very important. A lot of people had been speculating, is this the reincarnation of Yoda? Is he like the reincarnation of Yoda? No, because this proves that they were both alive during the same timeline. Do you guys remember? So this guy was alive during the Clone Wars. Yoda was alive during the Clone Wars. And Yoda is alive all the way through till the end. Oh, well, not the end, till like the halfway point of Return of the Jedi, which is the point where Grogu was alive too. So confirmed for all those of you who are speculating this is the reincarnation of Yoda. No dice. Not the reincarnation of Yoda. First off, he's already like 50 years old, so it wouldn't really make much sense. But there you go. This is just confirmation. It's confirmed. All right. So let's go. And so Ahsoka then decides to test Baby Yoda because she wants to check out, what kind of abilities he has. Baby Yoda is not really feeling her, and he doesn't really want to listen to what she's saying. So Ahsoka's like, you know what? Mando, you give it a shot. And so Mando tries to entice him with the little metallic ball. If you guys remember the first episode of one of the first episodes of The Mandalorian where he's actually interacting with Grogu. Grogu's really interested in one of the balls that's like in the handle of the ship. And so this is the ball that he brings out. And Grogu's like, give me that bitch. Immediately, like, boom. And so Mando's really excited about this, but Ahsoka's like, yeah, I can't train him. Clearly, he loves you too much, and I've seen what happens when a trained Jedi loves somebody, and it's not a good idea. And this is kind of something that I've never really understood about the Jedi, because, I mean, Ahsoka clearly loved Obi-Wan. She clearly loved Anakin, but I guess it's more in a comrade type of way. It's not in a parent type of way. And one of the issues with Anakin is that he loved his mom, and so, you know, like, love leads to what is it? Love leads to fear, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering. Anyway, so that's pretty much why. Basically, Ahsoka Tano told him, like, yeah, you were too good of a parent, and you took too much. You took really good care of him, and that's a problem. So I can't train him. And so Mando's like, bitch, they sent me here to kill you, okay? So let's make a deal. I'll help you out with your problems because I don't think you can take on the whole silly by yourself. And you help me get the baby trained, right? You get Grogu trained. And Ahsoka's like, fine, I guess I need your help. So they start working on a strategy, and basically the strategy they decide on is a surprise attack halfway. So Ahsoka's gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna do things like straight up, and they'll never consider that we're working together, and so we're gonna sneak in that way. That's kind of the plan. Anyway. So next we have the actual direct assault into the city, and so like I said, Ahsoka just straight up runs into the city, takes out all the guards on the wall, and we have this really interesting moment here where honestly, I took this shot. It's really not important to the story, but that look, it styled, everything is like that really reminded me of Ahsoka from the anime, like the cocky look and everything. I was like, man. Freaking Rosario Dawson nailed Ahsoka. But anyway, let's continue. This leads to an altercation in the streets. So the magistrate, Lang, and her soldiers, they're ready for Ahsoka. And naturally, Ahsoka jumps the fuck after a brief conversation. She jumps out of the way, and then she starts running into the city streets. This makes all the soldiers start following her, and so the magistrate retreats back into her own little castle. And she orders her soldiers to kill all the prisoners that they have. Before they kill him, Mando shows up, kills those dudes, saves them, and then he has a brief conversation with a citizen that was going to go there to help. Honestly, I'm not even naming this guy because I don't think that he's going to appear again. But I'm just showing him to you just in case. So there you go. Citizen. Anyway. Ahsoka, in the meantime, is taking out fools like flies in the middle of the streets, and this leads to her jumping over the wall while Mando is basically blockading the way from the mercenary going in there to interfere in the fight between her and Morgan. So this leads us to two kind of separate duels. First off is the duel here between Lang and Mando, and the duel between Ahsoka and Morgan. So Morgan's fighting with a spear. Ahsoka's fighting with her lightsabers, the knife and the sword. It's a long knife, I guess. Yeah, knife, I guess. Sure, knife. I'll stick with knife. And I'm not going to show you much of this fight. Let's just say it was an okay fight. I have issues with it, but I'll save it for later. But it was okay. It was okay. And Mando, in the meantime, he's having a conversation with Lang. Now, Lang is really weird here. Lang is basically trying to get into Mando's head. And he's like, oh, what do you think's happening there? You think my girl's winning? You think your girl's winning? What the hell's happening? What do you think? Should we run away? Basically, he's trying to get into his head, which is kind of a dumb idea because you're talking to a guy who's wearing a helmet. Even if you're getting into his head, you can't see his reaction. You don't understand what's going on through his mind. So Lang was weird here. Anyway, the duel ends up being won by Ahsoka Tano, and she starts demanding information from Morgan. And the duel outside ends with Morgan saying, like, you know what? I think your girl won, so I'm going to put my gun down, and then I'm going to sneak up and bring my gun up, and that's when Mando shoots the hell out of him. Which is, again, Terrible strategy for many reasons, but I'll save them for later. Anyway, here, Ahsoka Tano, she asks a very important question, and she wants to know, the information she wants from Morgan is, where is Grand Admiral Thrawn? All right? Remember that name, Grand Admiral Thrawn. All right? After that, Ahsoka basically tells Mando, here, you won this spear that's of the metal that your people like, and it's also very expensive. Here you go. It also can withstand lightsabers for some reason, but okay. We've never seen that before, but cool. Honestly, respectable. If anybody created some kind of a weapon that could resist Jedi, it's the Mandalorians. And so then this weird guy shows up again. I honestly don't remember why. Mando says that he's going to go to the ship to get the Grogu ready. And Ahsoka Tano shows up and tells him, yeah, you know what? I'm not taking him. I know we had a deal, but I'm not taking Baby Yoda. And the reason is because I think he'd be better off with you, but I'll tell you where to go. So I'm still kind of, keeping my deal here. Basically what she says is you need to go to the planet Typhon and go to the ruins of a Jedi temple, put him in a particular spot, and if he chooses, he can reach out and then he can choose his own path. If he chooses, he can, reach out through the Force, and there's a chance that another Jedi may sense his presence, and then come searching for him. And there's also a chance that won't happen because there's very few Jedi left in the galaxy. So after that, Mando and Grogu say goodbye to Ahsoka, and they hop on their ship and they leave back to space. So there you go. That was the episode. What was episode 5 of The Mandalorian? Let's move on to The Good, the Bad, and the Mandalorian.
I like those odds.
All right, so, damn, I'm going to get a copyright thing again for that one, probably. Anyway, doesn't matter. So, in The Good, the Bad, and Mandalorian, I break down 3 things. In the good, I break down things that I liked. In the bad, I break down the things that I didn't like. And in The Mandalorian, I'll give you a fun fact. So, let's begin with the good. Let me just make this a little bit bigger here. There you go, the good. So, first off, the casting of Ahsoka Tano, they nailed it. Honestly, Rosario Dawson was a perfect choice for this, and she actually, you could tell that she actually watched the show. Unfortunately for me, I prefer younger Ahsoka because she's a little bit wilder. Here, she's more of the controlled, moderate, mature Ahsoka, which is annoying, but fine. She's a Jedi, whatever. It's fine. But like I said, she really nailed the character. The casting was great. I really liked the choreography here for the fight sequence. I know, it's the thing that I complain about the most, but I actually like the whole assault here. And let me break it down. So first off, you have Ahsoka assaulting the wall, which it's close counter combat where she had the advantage because she could move around, and if she dodged somebody, they'd be hitting somebody behind her, so it was certain of an advantage. And once you take out the people on the wall, you take away their vertical advantage, right? You take away the high ground, which is always a good thing. Next, when she was face to face with the enemy, you cannot have a full frontal attack to the enemy right there. You'll be dead, especially when she was facing a wall of basically blasters. So what does she do? She jumps to the side. Again, taking the high ground. Smart. You always want the high ground. And then it allows her to, run away. So she runs away because it's not a particularly favorable arena for her. So she runs to an arena that's better, which is the middle of the city streets. Now, this also prompts them to chase after her. The reason why they chase after her is because they think, all right, well, she doesn't have any backup. It's just her. If we get her, she's done. It doesn't matter if we're fighting her in an unfavorable arena, because once we get her, she's done. This opened up the opportunity for Mando to come in from behind and take out a bunch of enemies. Clever strategy. Simple, but effective. And again, then Ahsoka is free to start taking down the enemies one by one in the middle of the city streets. This is an advantage for her. I don't know if you guys know this, or if it's gonna be a fun fact for you guys, but in close quarter combat, a knife is more deadlier than a gun. So I think it was Mythbusters who proved that basically within a 20-foot radius, within 20 feet range, a knife is deadlier than a gun. So if you're fighting close quarter combat in the middle of like alleys and stuff, the advantage goes to Ahsoka, because not only does she have the better weapon for this particular type of combat, she also has a super fucking weapon, 2 of them actually, which are lightsabers, And she also has speed on her side because she has, she has speed and strength and agility on her side because she can use the Force to move around. So excellent strategy on Ahsoka's part. Next, then that frees her up by using Mando to block her back. This allows her to go one-on-one with what would be probably the most deadliest enemy here. So great strategy all around. Honestly, I enjoyed it. It's like finally somebody has a bit of a brain here. And it's all credit in the world to the director of this episode, who is Dave Filoni, I think. That guy actually wrote episodes for Star Wars Rebels, for Star Wars Clone Wars, and he directed a few of those episodes. So you finally got a guy who understands how some of these things work. Good. Honestly, good. Finally, somebody got in there who understands this stuff and who understands Ahsoka. So it makes a lot of things flow better. Let's say flow better than if you just hire somebody who doesn't understand the character at all. It's like, oh well, it's just another normal Jedi. Next, I really liked the setup here for Thrawn and the implications for it. First off, let's talk implications. For all this time, we thought that the big bad here was Gideon. And now it turns out that there's actually another big bad. What's going on? Are they part of the same team? Are they not? Is Gideon going rogue? Is Thrawn in charge of Gideon? What the hell's happening? Nobody really knows. And that's great. You're adding a little bit of mystery here. And this is when things actually, become great. Because I'm solving one mystery, where the hell Baby Yoda come from? What's his name? Is he actually a reincarnation of Yoda? You solve that mystery, and you introduce another bigger mystery, which is always fun. So this is when, like I said, when things turn great. Next, let's move on to the bad. And the bad here, and there's not much to complain about, but to me, the few things that I really hated were, well, not really hated, it just annoyed me. The duel between Ahsoka Tano and Morgan. Like I said, it was okay, but the reason why I put it in the bad is because it could have been way better. Now, like I said, this episode was like an old school samurai movie, and it had to culminate in an old school type of samurai duel. And since this show is also kind of a Western, it also culminated in a Western style duel. So I understand that. The thing that bugs me here is that, well, the thing that bugs me in general about Star Wars fights is that they don't use the Force more. Like, this fight could have been over in 2 seconds if Ahsoka just decided to hit Morgan with the Force. And that's something that happens a lot in the Star Wars universe. And the argument usually is, like, if you see most of the lightsaber duels, it's like the heroes kind of start winning, and then the Sith uses the Force, and it's like, now you have the advantage. And it's like, why didn't you just use the Force too? It's kind of annoying, but whatever. The thing that I would have liked here is, first off, they needed to build up Morgan more. Like, if you're going to go one-on-one against a Jedi, you need to build this character up as a badass fighter. So they should have shown at some point that Morgan can fight. So either is when, actually, she reminds me a lot of the villain in Princess Mononoke. If you guys ever seen it, I forget her name. But the villain there, it's a lady who runs a town, and she's a badass. Like, she can actually fight. She's cold-blooded. She's in a way very harsh, but also they show a kinder side to her. It's because she for as much of a heartless bitch that she is, she also has a very big heart for people who are downtrodden. She finds people who have been kicked by life, and she brings them up. She gives them a job. She gives them a place in society. Like, she actually takes care of lepers. So it would have been interesting if they added that side to her. Again, I would have made this a multi-episode thing just so that I could have built it up more, so it would have been more exciting. And I would have shown that she's actually a legit fighter. Like, if she would have put Mando to the test or something, or when in the original Assault, if she actually would have been the reason why she couldn't get into the city. But they didn't do it. Again, it's just a missed opportunity, and that's why I put it in the bad, because it was a missed opportunity here, and because, again, the problem is that once Ahsoka got through the wall, you're like, yeah, this fight's done. There's no way a chick is going to beat a Jedi. A random nobody's going to beat Ahsoka Tano if she's carrying lightsabers. Now, there's a possibility that this fight could have actually been a little bit more exciting, and there's fights between random people against Jedi that are pretty good. One that's kind of comes to mind, and it's not a random person. It's actually a Mandalorian, the leader of Death Watch. That guy goes up one-on-one against Obi-Wan, and the reason why he does it is because he has a bunch of guys. All right, let's do it this way. Think about Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, Boba Fett versus Obi-Wan. So that fight is not exactly equal, but Boba Fett comes out on top, or actually manages to run away because he has a whole bunch of gadgets. So if this chick would have had like a blaster to keep Ahsoka at bay, or if there would have been like shooters on the walls or something, that could have made things a little bit more enticing. I don't know, but a straight up fight between a normal person with a spear against a Jedi, like a legit Jedi who survived the purge. Let's just say not a fair fight. Anyway, so that's just my 2 cents on that. I'm just overly picky, I guess. Next, I said this on the previous episode. The whole Mando helicopter mom thing and him being so proud that Baby Yoda got the ball. It's just, all right. It's not. I was gonna say it's really out of character. It is really out of character from who Mando was in the beginning. However, the character has progressed and he's changed and we've seen him evolve. The thing here is I don't like where he's evolving. I don't like that direction. I actually prefer the original character, the one who didn't say much. Here, he's actually talking to Baby Yoda and being like, well, I guess we need to find her. Oh, I guess that was a false alarm. So it's like, I don't like that direction for this particular character. I wouldn't like to see the man with no name just turn into like a wet nurse. It's really weird. So I'm not a particular fan of that. Hopefully they'll fix it at some point. Next, like I said, this duel here made no sense at the end between Lang and Mando. Let me just give you, like, this, Lang actually talks himself out of the duel. And he's like, oh, well, I guess my lady lost, and so I'm going to leave. And so he's putting his weapon down. And then he gets, shot and killed because he thinks, aha, I'm going to sneak a shot here against the Mandalorian, who I can't see his eyes. Usually in a duel, they're looking at each other eye to eye, and they're trying to be like, what is he doing? What is he thinking? They're trying to read their minds. Here, you can't read Mando's mind or you can't read his eyes because he's got a helmet. Also, and I can't stress this enough, Mando is wearing lightsaber-proof armor. He's wearing lightsaber-proof armor. You know who you do not want to get into a duel with? Somebody who is wearing lightsaber-proof and blaster-proof armor. It is stupid because usually in a duel, if you're lucky, you'll get one. The thing is getting the first shot in before the other guy. Here, you could get 10 shots in before the other guy does, and he'll still be able to shoot at you. So it's just an all-around terrible idea. I think this guy just wanted to die. So, and if not, it was just stupid. I get why they did it, but it was stupid. It was stupid. And I have issues with them making villains stupid. Because villains are supposed to be the smart ones or the clever ones, or they're the ones that are supposed to make the heroes elevate themselves. You're not supposed to go down to their level. Anyway, that's it for that. Let's move on to The Mandalorian. And of course, we have to talk about Grand Admiral Thrawn. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to get too deep into Grand Admiral Thrawn because he will appear eventually on the show. Hopefully, knock on wood. I mean, they can't name drop him if they're not going to show him. And so I don't want to spoil anything for you. So I'm just going to show you something really quickly and tell you kind of who he is. Grand Admiral Thrawn, he is not a human. He is a humanoid alien. And basically, he is one of the greatest military minds, if not the greatest military mind of the galaxy. He appears in the series of books called Heir to the Empire, Dark Force Rising, and The Last Command. This is known as the Thrawn Trilogy. And here's the interesting part. If you guys see the covers here that I put up, you'll see Thrawn, you'll see Luke, Leia, and Han Solo. So, this brings us to a very interesting situation where the ones that dealt with Thrawn, and this is, by the way, the Thrawn Trilogy is after Return of the Jedi. So the characters that actually dealt with him are Luke, Leia, and Han Solo. So, what does this mean for the Star Wars universe? Well, it actually puts us in a very interesting situation. A lot of fans, like the hardcore fans who actually read the expanded universe books, were very upset with the most recent Star Wars trilogy because it was when they introduced the First Order and all that stuff, it didn't really make much sense to them. It was stupid. The villains kind of sucked, and then you have the villain that was killed off in the second movie. It was kind of stupid, and so a lot of people were upset. They were saying, like, why couldn't it just be Thrawn? Like, Thrawn was great. Why couldn't it just be Thrawn? So that leads us to this interesting situation. What are they doing here exactly introducing Thrawn? Now, to be honest, this is not the first introduction of Thrawn into the Star Wars cinematic or video universe, because Thrawn actually kind of makes an appearance in Star Wars Rebels. So he is canon, I guess, in that sense. So it's very interesting that they're using all the secondary characters from the number movies, and they're directing them into what may be the greatest villain in the Star Wars universe. Now, not the most iconic, but one of the one of the most interesting. All right, that's a statement, and I'm wrong, because Star Wars has so many great villains, but let's say one of the best. And so it seems to me like what they're doing is they're grabbing all the side characters that they didn't really use in the movies, and they're going to bring them all into a clash here in The Mandalorian, which could be great. Like, Mando's a new character, Baby Yoda's a new character. Well, I'm sorry, Grogu's a new character, but you got Ahsoka Tano, whose story is not really finished. You got Boba Fett, whose story is not really finished. And you got Bo-Katan, whose story is not really finished. And so you got all these old characters who are fan favorites, by the way. I haven't met a person who doesn't like these characters so far. Well, I mean, everybody hates that they didn't really use Boba Fett a lot more, but that's not really Boba Fett's fault. It's the writing's fault. And anyway, whatever. So the point is, you got these cool, very cool characters. Their stories are not really, it's not really wrapped up yet. And you're introducing one of the coolest villains that they have in the Star Wars universe. Honestly, I'm liking this direction. I'm liking it. This is like a big FU to Disney. Well, not Disney specifically, but to the people who made the new movies. Because it's like, here, F you had a great villain, you didn't use him, we're going to use him. I'm going to make my own Star Wars with blackjack and hookers. And that's how this feels like. And honestly, I'm 100% in. Because according to this, and according to something that a character said in the previous episode, it's like, the core planets don't really care what's happening they don't understand what's happening in the Outer Rims. So what they're doing is they're making this separate war in the Outer Rims. And I'm sure at one point somebody's going to mention that in the core planets, the First Order is rising or whatever. But the outskirts is the ones that we care about. Because that's where we're going to see Thrawn dealing with Mando, dealing with the Mandalorians, maybe dealing with the New Republic a little bit. It's great. And if Grogu goes to the Jedi Temple and reaches out to Jedis, who are Jedis who are still alive? There's, well, the easy one is Ahsoka Tano, but I'm pretty sure she's not going to take up the call because she already didn't take up the call. But we got two right here. Very interesting Force-sensitive individuals. One fully trained Jedi Master named Luke Skywalker, and his twin sister, who's also Force-sensitive, who is kind of... this particular point in time is not exactly sure. I'm not exactly sure at this particular time how well trained she is, but she is indeed Force-sensitive. So there's an opening for a lot of great things here. And The Mandalorian is starting to bring things together in a great way. So I'm very excited. And it all begins with this guy right here. So what do you need for a great story? You need a great villain. You need a villain that'll make things exciting. That's good. Well, actually, I mean, that's not the one thing, because you need a likable protagonist, and that likable protagonist needs to have a villain. And this dude is one of these Star Wars greats. So, like I said, this is only kind of a fun fact. I'm not going to go too deep because I don't want to ruin stuff until we know exactly how Thrawn's going to be used. And I'm going to wait until he actually appears on the show to go a little bit deeper into his story. But there you go. For those who are curious, these are the 3 books. I highly recommend them. Heir to the Empire, Dark Force Rising, and The Last Command. Written by Timothy Zahn. I met Timothy Zahn. He's a good dude. He's a smart dude. He's the guy that actually used the phrase that I'll never forget. Military strategy in Star Wars. He's the guy who actually introduced military strategy into Star Wars because he actually cares about it. And so, highly recommend them. And, overall, there you go. I think that's a good place to stop. It was a it was a good episode. Honestly, among the best, among the top tier of the episodes. So there you go. So that's it. That's the good, the bad, and the Mandalorian. That's everything for this week. Hopefully you enjoyed that. As always, any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me at Dario the Show on Instagram and at Super Dario World. Also, live streaming on Super Dario World on Twitch and on YouTube at Super Dario World. And if you want to see this video later so you can see the images and you can see Thrawn and Ahsoka and all that stuff, you can find that it'll load on YouTube eventually in a little bit, hopefully, at Super Dario World. As always, thanks for listening, and I'll see you again next time.